ऊर्ध्वलिङ्गाय नमः हिरण्याय नमः हिरण्यलिङ्गाय नमः सुवर्णाय नमः सुवर्णलिङ्गाय नमः दिव्याय नमः दिव्यलिङ्गाय नमः भवाय नमः भवलिङ्गाय नमः शर्वाय नमः शर्वलिङ्गाय नमः शिवाय नमः शिवलिङ्गाय नमः ज्वलाय नमः ज्वललिङ्गाय नमः आत्माय नमः आत्मलिङ्गाय नमः परमाय नमः परमलिङ्गाय नमः एतत् सोमस्य सूर्यस्य सर्वलिङ्गस्थापयति पाणिमन्त्रं पवित्रम् सद्यो जातं प्रपद्यामि सद्यो जाताय वै नमो नमः भवे भवेनातिभवे भवस्वमां भवोद्भवाय नमः वामदेवाय नमो ज्येष्ठाय नमः श्रेष्ठाय नमो रुद्राय नमः कालाय नमः कलविकरणाय नमो बलविकरणाय नमो बलाय नमो बलप्रमदनाय नमः सर्वभूतदमनाय नमो मनोन्मनाय नमः अघोरेभ्यो घोरेभ्यो घोरघोरतरेभ्यः सर्वेभ्यः सर्वशर्वेभ्यो नमस्ते अस्तु रुद्ररूपेभ्यः तत्पुरुषाय विद्महे महादेवाय धीमहि तन्नो रुद्रः प्रचोदयात् ईशानः सर्वविद्यानाम् ईश्वरः सर्वभूतानां ब्रह्माधिपतिर्ब्रह्मणोऽधिपतिर्ब्रह्मा शिवो मे अस्तु सदा शिवो नमो हिरण्यवाहवे हिरण्यवर्णाय हिरण्यरूपाय हिरण्यपतये अम्बिकापतय उमापतये पशुपतये नमो नमः पृथगुं सत्यं परं ब्रह्म पुरुषं कृष्णपिङ्गलम् ऊर्ध्वरेतं विरूपाक्षं विश्वरूपाय वै नमो नमः सर्वो वै रुद्रस्तस्मै रुद्राय नमो अस्तु पुरुषो वै रुद्रः सन्महो नमो नमः विश्वं भूतं भुवनं चित्रं बहुधा जातं जायमानं च यत् सर्वो ह्येष रुद्रस्तस्मै रुद्राय नमो अस्तु तद्रुद्राय प्रचेतसे मेरुष्टमाय तव्यसे वोचे वशन्तमगुं हृदे सर्वो ह्येष रुद्रस्तस्मै रुद्राय नमो अस्तु ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः
Om Shri Sai Ram. I offer my humble salutations at the divine lotus feet of Bhagwan Shri Sathya Sai Baba, who resides in all our hearts. Loving Sai Ram to respected elders, brothers and sisters from across the world. My name is Sambhavi Arullandi from the International Young Adults Veda Training Program team. With much pleasure, I welcome all of you today for this special Veda webinar marking 1 year since the inaugural webinar a year ago. What a wonderful year it has been. Bhagwan chose Sri Sathya Sai Aradhana Mahotsav last year to launch this program, where nearly 1,400 young adults with 30 Veda resource persons and more than 60 trainers from over 50 countries joined the program, serving the noble mission of Veda Poshana. It is indeed Bhagwan's blessings to involve the young adults in learning and chanting of the Vedas, especially during the times of crisis. We are truly amazed by the interest and motivation shown by our young adult learners. When the program was initiated, we never thought it would inspire the world at this scale. But our loving Bhagwan planned and brought many of us as his chosen instruments to witness his divine plan. We had plenty of experiences. Let me share with you all one such beautiful experiences from our young adults. Some of our young adults from a remote village of eastern Nepal came to know about this program. Even though they are differently abled, unable to see, but had keen interest to learn the Vedas. Naturally, the Veda resource persons initially thought it is impossible to teach them without their ability to read, with the lack of internet access in that area. But with their consistent interest, classes were conducted through phone calls. Surprisingly, within a very short period of time, they are able to chant the whole Rudram with correct intonations and have experienced the presence of our beloved Bhagwan throughout their learning journey. In the last 1 year, we faced many challenges with the program. However, with the everlasting grace of our beloved Lord, through his invisible hand, we are able to meet all of you today after a year since the inaugural webinar in June 2020. As we step into the second year, we would like to thank all our seniors who always inspired, supported, and guided us in this journey. And of course, the young adult leaders around the world who have been dedicated to offer their support to their fellow young adults. And most importantly, let us not forget to thank the Veda resource persons and the trainers who have worked day and night to offer their efforts in Veda learning and chanting. Our beloved Bhagwan has brought all of us together in this initiative through endless echoes of the Vedas. On behalf of the Veda program team, I would like to offer my humble gratitude to our loving Bhagwan for this golden opportunity and also for his continuous guidance. On 20th of June last year, we had our inaugural webinar with Dr. Narendranath Reddy, and we are extremely pleased to come together for another session with him. Dr. Reddy is the chairman of the Sri Sathya Sai International Organization. He graduated in medicine with honors from SV Medical College, Tirupati, India. He has specialized in internal medicine at the New Jersey College of Medicine and Dentistry of the United States of America. Later, he did his subspecialization in endocrinology and metabolism at the Mount Sinai School of Medicine, New York. He has been a consultant and a practicing internist endocrinologist in Southern California for more than 40 years. Dr. Reddy's family have been followers of Bhagwan Sri Sathya Sai Baba for 4 generations, with Dr. Reddy himself having come to Bhagwan at the age of 5. So, without any further ado, we welcome Dr. Narendranath Reddy and kindly request him to share his knowledge and experiences with us. Jai Sai Ram.
Mangalam Gurudevaya, Mangalam Sathya Sayine, Mangalam Partivasaya. With love, gratitude, and reverence, I offer my prayerful pranams at the divine lotus feet of our dearest, sweetest, loving, and omnipresent Lord, Bhagavan Sri Sathya Sai Baba. Dear brothers and sisters, loving Sai Ram to all of you. It is beautiful to meet you again with this webinar after almost a year. I know we met in June of 2020. We had that webinar, and it was nice that we could talk about the Vedas, the essence of the Vedas at that time. I'm really congratulate all of you. I'm proud that you are had the perseverance to continue this program even for this 1 year. And I was informed this is the 7th webinar you are having. So Swami says 3 P's are important: purity, patience, and perseverance. So this shows your perseverance. And also I congratulate the International Young Adult Coordinator Devesh, Deputy Roshni, all the Zone Young Adult Coordinators, and the Veda trainers and participants, everybody, because it is a team effort. It is a combined effort of all of you. I think Sambhavi gave a beautiful summary of all the wonderful things that is happening. And it is gratifying to hear that night's story and people from Nepal, where if you have that genuine interest, sincere interest, how Swami will make it happen. So really it is, again, I'm very happy that all of you are continuing to do this program. So this Veda program you started, so people, we want to clarify, Veda means knowledge. The root word with means knowledge. So knowledge belongs to all, irrespective of nationality, race, religion, creed, caste. So it belongs to all. So the Vedas are the repository of knowledge for all people, because that is why we call this belongs to the eternal religion, Sanatana Dharma. It is a way of life. And that is why these Vedas have Anadi. That means they don't have any beginning. And they are Ananta, infinite. The knowledge is infinite because you cannot confine that. And it is Apaurusheya. It is not coming from just our human mind. It is the source is the divine. So no beginning, it is infinite, and the source is the divine. We should remember, and it is the way of life. It is applicable not just for chanting, but for our practical daily living. And as we said, Swami gave so much importance to Vedas, the very fact he named the places where he resided, like in Kodaikanal, Swami's home is called Sai Shruti. Shruti means Vedas, Agamas and Nigamas. So he gave the importance. Then his house in Vrindavan is called Trayi. Trayi means Vedas. First there were 3 Vedas, Rug, Yajur, Sama Veda. Then the other Vedas started. And Swami's house in Prashanti Nilayam is called Yajur Mandir. That means he gave the importance to Yajur Veda, because Yajur Veda is considered the heart of all Vedas, and Rudram is the heart of the Yajur Veda. So it shows the importance Swami gave to these Vedas. In these Vedas, there are three things. One is karma kanda, that is rituals and work and service. And then upasana kanda, where you express love to God, your devotion to God. And finally, jnana kanda, where you realize the oneness with God. This is actually, you can see in our Sai centers, in a regular practical scale, it is implemented. Karma kanda is where we get involved in selfless service, doing in our societies, communities. And then devotional practices, that is the upasana kanda, bhakti, where we sing the God's glories and share his stories. And then finally, jnana kanda, where we do the study circles and self-inquiry, all those three. So this is part of the Vedas. For example, the karma kanda, upasana kanda in Vedas is contained in samhitas, brahmanas, and aranyakas. Whereas the Upanishads are the part of the jnana kanda. That is why they call Vedanta. And Veda anta means end of Vedas. That is the Upanishads which contain. So that is the progress we make. Like you can take karma service as a flower. Then the next one comes the bhakti, devotion. That is a fruit. And then jnana, the knowledge, is the ripe fruit. And that is what comes. So I'm happy you chose. That is the topic where we have progress, wherein finally everything ends in jnana. That is why it is called Jnana Devatu Kaivalyam. Everything ends in Jnana, because this is the important. Swami says the Advaita Darshanam Jnanam. Seeing oneness is knowledge. Because Swami says dual mind is half blind. So you need to see that oneness. That is the whole purpose of our spiritual practice. Realize our divinity and see the same divinity in everything. That's what Swami has been teaching us. Actually, yesterday it was the Hanuman Jayanti. I know a lot of people all over the world, the devotees of Lord Rama, Hanuman, they have celebrated it. He was the example. When Lord Rama asked Hanuman, what is your attitude towards me? He said, Lord, when I have body consciousness, I think I am your servant. I am your dasa. I want to serve you because I have the body consciousness. Because to get rid of the body consciousness, the best way is, one of the ways is service. So he says, I am your servant. You know how dedicated servant Lord Hanuman was. That is why Swami established a 65 feet statue during his 65th birthday in the Hillview Stadium, which towers are all of the statues. And then he says, when you have that I am the jiva, that I am the part of you, then I think I am just a fraction of you. I am your part. And when I think I am the Atma, I am Atmic consciousness, then I and you are one. There is no difference. So same thing depending upon where we are, because this is the spiritual evolution we all go through. In the beginning we do, but this all can go together. We do the selfless service, then we do the devotional practices, then we become part of him and we enjoy the bliss. And finally we realize, as Swami says, I and my Father are one. I and you are one. Swami said that many, many times. Yes, say I, means Sai and I are one. So that is the realization which Hanuman shows us the greatest example Swami has shown. So that we all need to practice, and this is shown in the Vedas. Finally, you end up in Jnana. Why is the Jnana important? So in Lord Krishna in Bhagavad Gita says, in the chapter 7, Chaturvida bhajante mam jana sukrituno arjuna arto jijnasu arthati jnane cha bharatarshava. I have 4 types of devotees. Lord himself says, they're all devotees, no doubt. What? One is artha, that means when they are suffering, health problem or a family problem, any problem, they just pray to the Lord. And arthati, then they want some prosperity, some benefit. They want promotion in the job, a success in the business, they pray to the Lord. And third is jijnasu, they are inquirers. What is the truth? That is the third type. And finally, Jnanis, the people who realize oneness with God, oneness with everything. And Lord Krishna says, Jnani Atmaiva me matam. There is no difference between me and Jnani. He gives, they're all dear to me, all the four, because there is nothing wrong, because God is our divine mother and father. You can pay to him when you have trouble. You can ask him for wonderful gifts, wonderful blessings. So, but the highest is love for love's sake. You have that, that is the highest. And actually, Swami said a beautiful story about this rich man and 4 wives. We don't have time to go into that, which shows how the Lord loves the one who is completely involved in jnana. And actually in the scriptures it is said, Ishwaranugrahayatena Pumsa Advaita Vasana. Only people who have divine grace, they have this interest in Advaita. So most of the people are caught up in their own eating, drinking, sleeping. And people who have spiritual interest also caught up in rituals and other things, they get stuck. But people who have special grace of the Lord, Pumsa Advaita Vasana, only by Lord's grace, you have that interest in Advaita. What is this Advaita, this oneness, what the topic you chose is, that is a part of the Vedanta Upanishad says, Advaitam Darshanam Jnanam. So just to see oneness, as I said, dual mind is half a blind. So we need to see that oneness. And actually it is said, Maheshwarat Jnana Ichyate. But it means Lord Shiva gives the jnana. That is why I said, Mangalam Gurudevaya, Mangalam Jnanadayine. So Lord Sathya Sai is our Maheshwara, our Lord Saishwara. He gives us the jnanam. So how do you get this jnanam? Swami himself has said, the best way to get jnanam is self-inquiry. Who am I? Am I this body? Am I this mind? Am I this intellect? And finally, you are realized, I am I. One time I was with Swami, I was there with another great devotee, Mr. V.K. Narasimhan. He was the editor of Sanatana Sarthi, great devotee and exemplary devotee of Swami. So we were just both sitting with Swami in Vrindavan, and then Swami was talking about the various spiritual topics. Then he said, the greatest is Advaita. Never forget that. And also he went to go on to say that this life is a dream, realize it. Then I said, Swami, how can this be dream? Yes, what you go through the night is night dream. This, what we go through is the daydream, in the daytime. Then Swami, are you also part of the dream? Yes, he said, I am there not only in the dream, I am there in the waking state, sleeping state, dream state, and then Turiya state. That means he is that eternal consciousness. That is what he wanted to realize. Then I said, Swami, this is a difficult thing. How to realize that? Swami said, not difficult at all. He gave a beautiful example. Say a cave is dark for thousands of years. So just you go and put a candle light, how long does it take that darkness to go away? Instantly it goes away. Similarly, when the dawn of knowledge comes, with your sincere effort, with your sincere longing, sincere hunger for that, then automatically the knowledge dawns. You realize that. People say that may be difficult. Actually, this happened to me one time. I was with Swami. I asked, Swami, because Lord Krishna himself says in chapter 10, it is the Bhut Yoga and Shloka 10, he says, Tesham satata yuktanam bhajatam priti purvakam dadami buddhi yogam. Those whoever does my worship, sing my glory, I will give them jnana. Why to struggle? So I asked Swami, just I need to sing your glories, think about you, remember you, do your japa meditation, then you will give me jnana. Swami said, yes. If you have that faith and that sincerity, I will give you jnana. But there are two conditions. Satata yuktanam priti purvaka. That means when you worship God, satatam, that means always, not sometimes part-time you do, sometimes forget, because a lot of us become part-time devotees. Sometimes you think, sometimes you forget. If you think of him all the time, in all places, at all times, and Priti Purvakam with so much love, definitely, Swami says, he will give us Jnana. That is the second thing. And also Lord Krishna says, to get Jnanam, Shraddhavan labhate Jnanam. The man with faith will get Jnanam. So we need to have that absolute, unflinching, unwavering faith in all circumstances, ups and downs of life. That is part of life. How do you hold on? That's why Swami says, there is a leaf, dry leaf. When the fast wind comes, it blows away. It doesn't stay. Whereas there is an iron ball there, big wind, storm, nothing moves. It doesn't move at all. Similarly, man with shallow faith, with little troubles come, ups and downs, it flows away. He loses the faith. But the man with absolute faith, he stands with all situations and holds on to the feet of the Lord. Then Lord gives the buddhi. So you need to have that absolute faith and just think about him all the time and do it with intense love. Then also you'll get. So one is self-inquiry and second is that one. And third thing, Swami beautifully said in the Shirdi Avatar, there's a beautiful story where one of the great Sanskrit scholars was chanting a shloka in, this is also, because all of you are interested in Sanskrit and Vedas, that is why I'm referring to these scriptures and Sanskrit verses. This is in chapter 4, shloka 34, where this man was telling, Tadvidhi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya, upadeshanchite ajnanam jnaninam tattvadarshana. That means the devotee or a spiritual seeker, sadhaka, goes to the guru and just surrenders to him, does his service. Then it says, guru will give jnanam. Shirdi Baba says, no, God will show you ajnanam. That means you are already embodiment of wisdom. We are all jnanis, but we forgot because of our negative qualities. So what the Lord will show is, this is your negative qualities. You get rid of them, automatically your purity, that you are the embodiment of divine shines forth. Like this, like the sun is there, it is with clouds. Clouds hide the sun. So sun is always brightening. As soon as the clouds go, you see the sun. Same thing. Once the cloud of ignorance which is covering us goes away, automatically we show that divine light. That is where the guru facilitates us. That is what he says. Then what is the advantage? What happens when we get the jnana? So Lord Krishna again says that jnanam labdhva param shantim achirena digacchati. Once you have the jnana, once you realize this oneness, you will have the supreme peace, peace that passeth understanding. So that is why we call that prashanti. Shanti is peace. Prashanti is supreme peace. That means you're always in that serene, calm, peaceful state that you develop. And second thing about jnana, this is also Lord Krishna says, because why I'm telling Gita is, it is essence of all the Upanishads. As I said, the most important part of Vedas is Upanishads, Vedanta. In that, the Upanishads essence is Bhagavad Gita. And here, Lord Krishna emphasizes that you need to get to that Advaita Darshanam, Jnanam. You should have that Shraddha, you should have that faith, and automatically you will attain that oneness. So this is another thing. And when you practice that, because we all worried about my karma, Jnanagdi Dagda Karmanam Tamahu Panditam Buddha. What happens? All of previous karmas, negative karma, prarabdha karma, the minute it is completely burnt away. One time Swami told me, Swami, I have this karma. Swami says, even a mountain full of karma, so with the grace of God, will instantly burn away. He gave the example, mountain full of the cotton, you put a matchstick, it completely goes into ashes. So that is the advantage. Once you have jnana, you will have the supreme peace and bliss, and all your karmas are gone. That's why all these Vedas, the important, as I said, Upanishads, I will touch briefly a couple of them. One is the Ishavasya Upanishads. This is very short Upanishads. It is only about 18 shlokas, where it says everything is permeated by God. Once you realize that, he says, having attained which, tatra ko moha ko shoka. He says, once you realize that, no more moha, no more delusion, no more attachment, no more grief. That means you are always bliss. These two things happen. Ishavasya Upanishad. And Swami gave a lot of importance. They used to chant in the Veda time. And also Mahatma Gandhi gave a lot of importance to that. Here, once you realize that oneness, no more moha and shoka. Another one important part of the Vedas is Purusha Suktam, which people chant. Even sannyasis chant along with Rudram Purusha Suktam. In the Purusha Suktam, it is mentioned, you will get that knowledge which is the highest, having attained which you won't be born again. No, you are not anymore the cycle of birth and death. Where it shows the cosmic Purusha. Purusha means the whole Lord in the cosmic form. Everything is contained in him. He says the moon and sun are these eyes, and these directions are his ears. And even in the people who belong, he says, from the head comes the Brahmins, and from the shoulders come the Kshatriyas. That means people who are warriors. And from the thighs come the Vaishyas, the people in the business community. And Shudras, the people who are the unskilled labor, come from the feet. But people think, oh, they are unskilled laborers, the lowest. Not feet. What do you worship in whenever we worship God? We worship the feet. We don't worship just the head or the shoulders and the thighs. Shows that we are all part of the same oneness. That is oneness. The Purusha Suktam clearly shows we're all part of the different parts of the whole cosmic being. And another thing, Rudram. Rudram is the one which shows there is only one thing exists. Everything is Rudram. I'll give you glimpses. So in Rudra, when you chant, he says, this stone is Rudram. The hillocks are Rudram. The mountains are Rudram. And same thing in water. Just a pool of water is Rudra. And then the lake, and then the oceans, the tanks, everything, waterfalls, they're all Rudra, manifestation of Rudra. Even among the plants, little plant, the branches of the tree, the gardens, the forest, everything is nothing but Rudra. Everything is Brahman. Even among beings, even simple microbes, even the microbes, and even the dogs, so even the animals, they're all nothing but the manifestation of Rudra. And even among the human beings of various professions they describe, carpenters, potters, and even the hunters, and so physicians, all kinds of people, they're all nothing but the manifestation of Rudra. That means whenever we come across, we should see that aspect of Rudra. This is what the Vedas teach. So what all exists is God in different forms. That is why in the Vishnu Sahasranamam also is very important beginning. Vishwam Vishnu Vashatkaro. That means the universe and the being, they're all the same. So that is what we should remember. So this is what I talked, what is Jnana and how to attain Jnana and what are the benefits that by having this Jnana. Then finally I will end. How do we know we have Jnana? So what are the qualities of a Jnani? That also you can go to Bhagavad Gita, go to chapter 13, shlokas 8 to 12. These are 5 shlokas. We don't have much time, but you go ahead and read. I will just tell you briefly. There are 5 shlokas. First is Amanitvam, Adhambitvam, Ahimsa, Kshantirajyavam, Acharya Upasanam, Shaucham, Sthiryam, Atmani Vigraham. So their main qualities emphasize is you should not have ego, and you should not have pride, and you should not have attachment, and you should have purity, and you should have complete self-control. It goes on like that. Asaktir anabhishwanga putradara gruhadishu nityancha samachitatvam. That means don't be entangled, attachment to the children, family, property. So you love everybody with complete detachment. And another thing, the same thing goes on talking about Janma Mrityu Jara Vyadi Dukkha Dosha Anudarshanam. Think this life is temporary, like Lord Buddha contemplated. We have birth, growth, sickness, and old age and death. So when you contemplate life is temporary, you focus what is permanent. It's another qualities. And also he talks about Vivikta Desha Sevitvam Aratir Janasamsadi. That means these people with Jnanis, they like to be contemplative. They like quietness, solitude, but doesn't mean you give up the society. Swami says, hands in the society, head in the forest. Always enjoy that being with God all the time. And finally says, Adhyatma Jnana Nityatvam Tattva Jnanartvam. Always have that hunger for the truth. And always, not sometimes. And you need to see always, is this real or that real? And give up the unreal and focus on the real. So please read those 5 shlokas. It gives many qualities. I just touched few important ones. Not having attachment, not having ego, and try to enjoy solitude, and just realize the unreal nature of the life, and focus on the supreme reality, and always be contemplative. So these are the main highlights, but there are more qualities in that. Please contemplate. This is how we know that we have jnana. So I pray to Swami to give us this patience, perseverance, and purity there, so that we pursue this path and we attain the supreme knowledge, jnanam, because he says he is going to give us the knowledge as long as we are sincere and we love him all the time with love for love's sake, then the goal we will reach for sure. Thank you, and Jai Sai Ram.
Offering my most loving pranams at the divine lotus feet of our dearest Lord, Sri Sathya Sai Baba. Most revered elders, dear sisters and brothers, loving saram to you all. Thank you, Dr. Reddy, for an enlightening and inspiring address on the Vedic principles and the concept of oneness. Your message on oneness, that all that exists is God in different forms, is especially significant to us all in helping us realize divinity in all. Thank you for reminding us that the Vedas belong to Sanatana Dharma, the eternal universal religion, and that all the Vedas themselves are the breath of God that come directly from the source, with no beginning, no end. As Sri Sathya Sai Baba has said, I am you and you are I. Have firm faith in this unity. This now brings us to the question and answer part of today's webinar. These questions have been posed by young adults and will be answered by Dr. Reddy. The first question is, how can we experience the oneness in and around us by applying the Vedic principles in daily life?
So as I said, first, this is a question of continuous. First, we should have the conviction, belief. The scriptures say, our master says there is only one thing exists. Because the essence of all the scriptures, he says, Brahma Satyam Jagan Mithya. This only truth is divinity and everything is illusory. That is why Swami beautifully sang one thing, these stars are Brahman, the sky is Brahman, this plants, everything is Brahman, you are Brahman, I am Brahman, this assembly of people. So we need to go on remembering that, but you need to practice. Here I am reminded of a beautiful story in people who know Shirdi Baba, Swami's previous incarnation in Shirdi Sacharita. So this Ishavasya Upanishad I was talking about, which is only 18 shlokas, but talks profound wisdom that there is only one thing exists, that is divinity. And just focus on that, don't covet others' wealth. Ishavasya Midam Sarvam. And that is why I said in there, it says, Tatra ko moha ko moha. Koshoka. So this devotee of Baba, his name is Das Ganu Maharaj. He used to sing the glories of Shirdi Baba all over. He wanted to translate this Upanishads, which is in Sanskrit, in the regional language, Marathi. He wanted to give the commentary and translate. He approached many scholars, many people, and even he tries to do. He's a very scholarly man, but he could not do. He was never successful. So then he went to Baba. He asked Baba, sat down, Baba, please help me. So I'm not able to do that. I approached many people. And Baba tells, okay, when you are going back, you are going to this, your friend, Kaka Dishit, there, his maidservant will teach you. People were wondering, even scholars could not tell how a maidservant girl can teach. So there were things, Swami is pulling the legs, so just teasing him. But this man had so much faith in Swami's words, he said, yes, Swami. So yes, Baba, and then he went there, he stayed. When he stayed in that house, so that girl in the morning when she gets up, she was washing the clothes, dishes and all that. So she was happily singing. She had torn clothes, soiled clothes, nothing bothered her. She was always joyful because this is what Ishavasya Upanishad teaches, contentment, be happy. And then, so he was moved by her joy, but he was also sad that she was poor and she has torn clothes. So he requested one of his friends who was giving him some clothes, please get a sari for her. So the sari was given to that girl, and the next day she wore, and she was very, very happy, joy, like a little girl getting it, very enjoying. Then next day, because she can't wear it, took it out again, she was wearing her old torn clothes. She was happy. So he says, my God, so what I didn't learn from reading commentaries and scholars, I had a practical demonstration here. Irrespective of whatever we have, you are content with what we have. And see the oneness. The one who is giving that sari is God. The one who is receiving that girl is God. And the sari is God. Everything is divine. That's what we are seeing. Everything you need to just, what is Swami says is, difference between a spiritual seeker and ordinary is your perception, how you look at things. Everything will be the same. But if you wear glasses of Jnana, glasses of Brahman, everything looks Brahman. So there is nothing different. So main thing is practice that. In whatever you see, this is all pervaded by God. Everything is divine. So this is a constant practice and reminder, then you will see the oneness.
Thank you, Dr. Reddy. The second question is also around practicality and about controlling the senses. It goes, the Bhagavad Gita says, if you can see God in everyone, you can never do harm to anyone. Although our minds accept this, how do we practically in a daily life implement this?
As I said, that's why Lord Krishna, everything he says is practice, practice, practice. Arjuna says, ask this question to Lord Krishna. Lord, I can control everything. I can even control the air. I can hold the air in my hand, but I can't control this mind. So it jumps all over here, there. That's why it gets all these negative thoughts, harming somebody or helping somebody. So what to do about this? Then Lord Krishna himself answers, Asamshayam Mahabaho Mano Durnigraham Chalam. Abhyasena tu kaunteya vairagyena grihyate. No doubt it's very difficult to control the mind, but by constant practice and detachment, you will be able to control. But here, you won't do any harm, because once you should have that oneness. Because the Lord Krishna again in the Gita says, who is the greatest yogi? The one, again, I don't want to chance to beautiful Atma Upamanya Sarvatra. The one who thinks others' joy as his own joy, others' pain as his own pain, he is the greatest yogi. There are so many examples like that. I can see in the Shirdi Sacharita, when one of the devotees, Tharkat's wife, she feeds a dog in a distant place, and Baba says, oh, you are feeding me, you made me happy. So he identified with the dog. And same thing, all the great masters, they see that oneness. Once Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, the guru of Swami Vivekananda, so he was mentioning that somebody was walking on the grass. Oh, somebody is walking on my chest, because he identified even with the grass. And same thing with Bhagavan Ramana Maharshi, when somebody was cutting a branch in a tree, oh, somebody is hurting. They feel that oneness with the whole creation. So you need to feel there is nothing but exists. For example, in your body, like I gave the example of Purusha, the whole thing belongs. In your body, there is a thorn which sticks to the foot. Let it be done. Everything works. The hand takes away the thorn. You just pain, your eyes shut, the tears. So everything is cooperation, because this is all part of your own body. Even though thorn is to your foot, so that is part of your body, then hand goes and takes it away. And eyes shed the tears because it is painful. And same thing, the food, Swami says, when you take the food which is not tasty, when you put in the mouth, so just as soon as you say, it spits it out. So it doesn't want, so nothing will go. So they all work together because we think we are the same body. Similarly, once you know that everybody is part of the same one, you just don't do any harm. That is why Swami says, help ever. That is why Swami's teachings are the essence of all Vedas. Very simple. Help ever, hurt never. So you cannot hurt anybody anytime, not sometime, never. That means you cannot hurt. How? Even by thought, word, and deed. Not only physically hurting, even by bad words or bad thoughts. So that is why it is not difficult. Everything is constant practice. We are used to a way of thinking, and you watch the masters, even simple things. Like one time I was there in Prashanti, before this Kulwant Hall was built. So they were building the wall, and they were putting water with force. And Swami sent a message, hey, tell them not to put with force, because he sees consciousness in everything. You know the story of the weeping sari with Hisla, Dr. Hisla, when the sari was not used in service, and there was wetness, and Swami said the sari is weeping. So there is consciousness not only in human beings, animals, plants, but in every part, because every atom, every cell of the creation is pervaded by the divine.
A related question, while you're on the scientific notion, is there any scientific knowledge that expresses the concept of oneness in and around us and in controlling the senses as well by chanting the Vedas?
So one thing is, science clearly says when you go to the microscope, there is only what happens, atoms, and then cells, and then finally the electrons, protons, and finally, this what all exists, the energy in the wave form. So energy is nothing but the embodiment of Shakti. It doesn't have a particular form. So really the Vedas, that is what they teach. There is only one thing exists, that is the divinity, whether you call in the form of the energy or in the form of these micro particles or anything, what all exists is the divine energy. So the Vedas call it Shakti or Purusha, the science calls it particle physics or nano things or this energy. Everything is the same. So we need to see the oneness. That is why great scientists like Albert Einstein, Newton, and many of them find there is no difference between science and spirituality. Actually, they say spirituality begins where science ends. So that is why there is no dichotomy between science and spirituality. That is why Swami says science is split of love and spirituality is spirit of love. So you can't integrate both, then you really become an integrated person.
Thank you, Dr. Reddy. In implementing the Vedic chanting in daily life, what do the Vedas reveal on how human lives can be shaped, providing paths to success?
So the Vedas, if you really just go to that, so they give the secret, how to be happy, how to be blissful and successful. Actually, as I said, Lord Krishna beautifully says, whatever work we do, yoga karma su kaushalam, perfection in action is yoga. That is what Vedas teach. Whatever thing we do it to the perfection. That is where the attention to detail. And Swami himself was an example. I happened to be with him in many things, watching him closely. Like he himself was inaugurating this hall, Sai Ramesh Hall in Vrindavan. At the time, the night before, Swami is inaugurating. He goes there in the night, late in the night, make sure the lampstands are there and the mics are on the right place, the flowers are in the right place, to show that even though he is the one who is the chief guest and hosts everything, but make sure everything goes well. So the success, one is attention to detail and perfection in action. And then another important thing is whatever we do, it should be based on the right context, on dharmic. Is it, you should use it, is it for my good or for the good of all? You need to use that fundamental discrimination. Whatever we do, is it for the highest good of all? Then these Vedas are helpful. And simple basic principles like Taittiriya Upanishad, Swami has it all over in the university. Simple thing, love your mother, treat your mother as God, treat your father as God, treat your teacher as God, treat your guest as God. So always speak the truth, Satyam Vada, Dharma Chara, behave in right conduct. All this, if you practice, you will have peace. What is success? Success ultimately is to have peace and happiness. Whatever, whether you pursue a professional career, whether you have a business, whether you want to have family, why do you do all that? Why do people want to have a big job or successful career or want to have a nice family? Is to be happy and peaceful. If you have all that, if you have no happy and peace, there is no point. So Vedas teach you can have this, but how to have the peace and happiness by following the principle they have laid down. And this was nothing but revelation from God to these great sages, and they put it in these various scriptures.
Thank you, Dr. Reddy. In the principle of practicing the Vedas and spreading success, love, and happiness from our family to our friends to our communities, the next question goes, although Vedic reminiscences are common to all, most of them symbolize natural concepts, specifically in Hinduism. How can we generally explain this concept to a community where people are from various religions and faiths?
Yeah, they talk about these yamas. Yama means there are things, yama and niyama. This is actually a part of the Patanjali Ashtanga Yoga. So Patanjali shows that means yoga. What is yoga? Yoga is nothing but union with God. We talk, what is happiness? Happiness is union with God. That is why in Bhagavad Gita, all the 18 chapters, beginning Vishada Yoga, then Sankhya Yoga, Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, everything is called yoga because that will take to union with God. This great master called Patanjali, he wrote the yoga aphorisms. And one of the ones you are asking about, the question is yama. Yama, niyama, pranayama, pratyahara, asana, dharana, dhyana, samadhi. These are the 8 yogas. So yama means nothing but the restraints. And it is followed by niyama. Niyama, what you should do. Yama is what you should not do. It's a big Sanskrit word. Simply what you should not do. That's all. What you should not do, ahimsa. That means you should not do himsa. That means practice ahimsa. Don't hurt anybody by your thoughts, word, and deeds. Second thing, he says asteya. Don't steal anybody from anything. Even the 10 commandments, thou shalt not steal. And third is aparigraha. Don't grab somebody's property. That is also yama. And satya, tell the truth. Then that is also part of the yama. And brahmacharya, living in the thoughts of God. Which religion? It is nothing unique to Hinduism. All religions go to anybody. Everybody teaches to speak the truth. Don't steal others' property. Even Buddhism says don't hurt anybody. Ahimsa, paramo, dharma. So this is nothing restricted. The word is Sanskrit word. But the principles, what they talk about, this ahimsa, steya, aparigraha, satya, brahmacharya, they are universal, they're nothing. And same thing with niyama, what you should do. What does he say? Same thing in Patanjali says, you need to, what you should not do in life and what you should do. What you should do is practice contentment, santosha, you should be happy. And purity, saucha, you always have internal and external purity. So he goes on telling this is a part of this, and Ishvara Pranidhana, that means always contemplate on God. So these are the various practices which they teach, what you should not do, what you should do. So they're not unique to only the Hinduism, they are the part of eternal religion, Sanatana way of living, and they are applicable to any human being, any person living any part of the earth, because these are the universal values. That is why Swami's teachings are universal and human values that are applicable to all humans. So this is the little explanation about Yama, Niyama, and the Ashtanga Yogas.
Thank you, Dr. Reddy, for reminding us about the vast knowledge of the Vedas. And understanding the inner concept of them is quite challenging, especially coming from a young adult point of view. Are there any easy, simple tips or steps that you can advise young adults to follow to help them remind them of the Vedic knowledge and principles in daily life?
So first we should see whatever we do, what are we trying to achieve. So just we need to have a regulated, disciplined life, because first we should know the clarity. What is our goal? Our goal is to be in tune with God so that we realize innate divinity, so that we lead a peaceful, blissful, happy life. So anything which takes towards that. Chanting Vedas, if we know the meaning and practice them, it helps. Still, it has a power, because Vedas are nothing but group of mantras, because it says mananat trayate iti mantra. That means contemplating, which repeating these powerful these words, it itself has a great effect. As I said, you take a medicine, you don't know the chemical structure, composition, everything, but still when you take medicine, it helps you, no doubt. But if you know the various aspects, what are the side effects, interactions, it will have more benefit. Similarly, these Vedic mantras being chanted thousands of years, but great spiritual seekers and saints, they have their power. But if you know the inner meaning and sincerity, you will have the effects. So main thing is try to know the meaning and practice in daily life. So just you don't need to worry about, whether what will happen. Take just Swami says 1 or 2 important principles and practice them. Simply telling the truth, not hurting other people, living the right life based on right conduct. You don't need a high esoteric philosophy. Nice. If you're a philosopher, you can dive deep, go into metaphysics and all that. But for a practical living, understanding the meaning and practice them. That is what it is.
Thank you, Dr. Reddy. With the notion of staying in tune with God, all Vedas, Upanishads, and even the Bhagavad Gita strictly govern meters or chandas. There are a strict number of syllables in each line and throughout the entire chant. What is the true significance of these meters, and what is the consequence if these meters are not correctly followed?
So here, anything you learn, any subject for that matter, whether it's physics, chemistry, even music, that people, you go to musicians, they're very particular about a raga, and there's a little change in the tone, they get upset. I remember one time, the great music maestro Ravi Shankar came to our house and he was listening to our bhajans. So we thought they were okay, but it was so painful for him, because they are masters. They see every little change in the ragas and rhythm, and it bothers them. Similarly, in Vedas, this is developed over thousands of years. There is a particular intonation, particular accent, particular way of chanting. So that is why these things you should learn from those people who have done this. That is why they are called Shruti. Shruti means listening. You learned it over generations together. They are passed on one to another by listening. Because by reading, you can see the words, but where the emphasis go up and down, you can learn from the teacher. So that's very important. You should learn it properly. And if you don't learn, as Swami says, don't worry about it. Just saying Om Sri Sai Ram is the essence of all Vedas. We don't need to struggle. But if you do anything, do it correctly. Because sometimes you do it correctly, you give the opposite meaning. Actually, in Sri Suktam, one of the things which is a thing which is in the hymn in praise of Mother Lakshmi goddess, he says there is a waste alachmi. There is a thing if you don't say, he says, Mother, get rid of my poverty. Lakshmi means prosperity. Alachmi means poverty. So if you don't say that properly, Lakshmi, just a little thing, Lord, take my prosperity away. So instead of saying take away poverty away. So this is why if you don't know properly and tuned, it can give the wrong meaning. But Lord always forgives. So try to learn from a good teacher and do it right, because this is developed over time. Say this is important. That's why having a good teacher, people to learn is important, because you learn by hearing.
Thank you, Dr. Reddy. In practicing the Vedas and learning how to chant them, there'll be many mistakes while chanting the Vedas, specifically when learning. And we hear about the sin of Gahatya after each mistake while chanting the Vedas. How can one avoid sins? Because chanting and making mistakes is inevitable. Will chanting the Shama Pratna, for example, eliminate such sin?
So, you were talking about Gohatya. Gohatya means killing a cow. Again, killing a cow is supposed to be bad. So people put that little fear so that you take it seriously when you learn, don't do any mistake. Because Lord looks at the heart. Swami says there is only one language. What is the language? Language of the heart, because he said beautifully, there's only one God, language of the heart. You do with sincerity. That is the most important thing. But try to do the best you can. Don't make the mistakes. But when you do this Kshama Prarthana, Lord, there he covers everything. That says mantra heenam, bhakti heenam, kriya heenam, janardana, yadakshara pada brashna. That means any mistake I do in putting an accent, in putting an intonation, in putting the sandhi, if I worshipped you without any love, or I did any mistake in chanting mantras, please forgive me all. So sincerely you pray for forgiveness. There is no Gohatya, nothing will affect you at all, because Lord is embodiment of forgiveness. But that doesn't mean you should be careless and not attentive. So learn to the best of your ability, the best way how to chant, do it correctly. But if there are any mistakes knowingly or unknowingly happen, you ask the Lord for forgiveness and nothing will affect you. Actually, most important here is your bhava, your feeling with which you do. And also people think we all love, people who love Vedas, chant, do the Vedas. But let me tell you, Swami's words, the greatest Vedas. I learned many scriptures from many different religions. If you go to Swami's words, they are essence of all scriptures, because his every word is a mantra, and his every sentence is an aphorism. His every discourse is a Veda, and every conversation is a Gita. So once you have that, you don't need to go to Sathya Sai speaks, read, it is essence of all Vedas. You listen to read his Vahinis, it is essence of all Upanishads and Gita. We don't need to struggle. If you enjoy doing that, some music, you have nice voice, you want to learn music, do it. But you don't have good voice, you don't know music, then you don't need to struggle. That's not your thing. Similarly, Vedas, we have you enjoy doing that, yes. If not, Swami's Sathya Sai speaks, Vahinis, that should be good. Because Swami looks at the heart. I can tell you, end with a brief, beautiful incident in the scriptures. There was this man called Kannappa. He was a devotee of Lord Shiva. He's a tribal man. He was going in the forest and he saw a Shivalinga, a dilapidated temple where the Shivalinga was not properly taken care of. So, but there was regularly a priest used to come and daily do the worship, Abhishekam for the lingam and do all the worship. So this man, one time he saw the lingam, and then he felt, oh, the Lord Shiva, so I need to offer him something. So he goes and he offers the water, which is taken from the nearby lake with his mouth, because he doesn't have any tumbler, and spit on the Lord Shiva. And this is a hunter guy. He's a tribal man. He hunts the animals, get the meat, and offers the meat to the Shiva lingam. So that's next day the priest comes. Everything is happening. There was pieces of meat there, and this something spit was there. He says, "What kind of, this is terrible. It is sacrilege. Who is this guy?" But he wanted to see who this guy is. So he was very upset. So he was standing behind to see. He was waiting all over there. I want to see who this guy is. As usual, this man comes with a full mouthful of water, spits on Lord Shiva on the top as the Abhishekam, because that's all he knows. This is with love. Then he offers the meat, and then finally, suddenly he sees Lord Shiva's one eye, there is a bleeding coming up. Oh, he was, oh my Lord, my Shiva's eye is bleeding. Then he says, because he's a hunter, he takes one of his eyes with his arrow, pulls it out, and puts on the Lord Shiva's eye. The bleeding stops. He was happy. Then suddenly the other eye starts bleeding. He has only one eye. If he takes it out, how can you put it? So he takes its other eye. Meanwhile, he puts his foot on that other eye, which is bleeding, as a sign. Otherwise, he won't be able to see once he takes out, because he's blind. So he takes out his other eye, puts his foot on the Shivalinga, and takes it and puts that there. And the Lord Shiva appears so pleased, because he looks at not, this guy doesn't know Vedas, this guy know the rituals, how to do the Abhishekam, but he was sacrificing. He doesn't care about his eyes. He did it so much love, and Shiva appears. Then the pujari, the priest who was doing everyday worship for so many years, he never had vision. This guy has it. Then he learns it is not scholarship. Vedas, it's nice to know that. More important is the heart with which you do, the love with which you do, the sacrifice. That is what God looks at. No doubt it is nice to know the Vedas, nice to know everything, but important is the heart, how much you love the Lord, how much purity you have, how much sacrifice you are willing to give. This is what all of us, we should keep that in back of mind when we are doing these various chantings, learning scriptures and doing rituals, everything, always. That is what even Jesus, when he came to teach the Jews in the temple, he says, don't go by the letter of the law, go by the spirit of the scriptures, not by letter. And same thing, Lord Buddha, when people are caught up in those animal sacrifices, Vedic ritual, he says, don't do that. Why are we doing that? Practice non-violence, ahimsa paramo dharma. So we need to always remember the fundamental Vedic principles. It boils down to Swami's 5 human values. If you practice 5 human values, it is practicing all the Vedic injunctions. Okay, Saira.
Thank you, Dr. Reddy. That's such a beautiful story to actually remind us that the most important thing when chanting the Vedas is to chant with a pure and conscious heart and a clean heart. That concludes this portion of the Q&A session for today's webinar. I'm sure we've all taken out something that we can practically implement into our daily lives to help us realize the concept of oneness and the divinity in each and every one of us. I'll now hand over to Sister Roshini.
Okay, thank you all of you for this opportunity to share Swami's love message and the Vedanta.
Hi, Ram. Thank you, Dr. Reddy. Thank you so much for joining us today. It was such a beautiful and insightful webinar. We've really dived deep into the essence of the Veda and the essence of oneness. And I think this is extremely important, especially today in the world that we live in, which is constantly strewn with challenges. Every day is a challenge. And this practical knowledge, the essence of the Veda, where everything is Swami, in times of extreme difficulty, we can still remember that even this is Swami, even coronavirus is Swami, even the lockdown is Swami, even conflict is Swami. And if all this we can see is Swami constantly, then this is really a great blessing that Swami has given us. This test itself is a amazing blessing that Swami has given us. Thank you for reminding us that this oneness needs to be in the center and forefront of our minds constantly. Dear Brother Kashir, thank you so much for bringing up those very practical questions. And thank you, Dr. Reddy, again for answering them. It is so important for us to remember that bhava is the most important thing, not only in chanting Vedam, but also in every single activity that we do. There was a quote that is on the front of my desktop now from Mother Teresa that says, "Do the littlest things with the greatest amount of love." So we can constantly remember that every tiny activity that we do, we have to infuse it with love and we have to infuse it with awareness. Then I think we are all on the right path. Dear young adults, thank you once again for joining us on the Veda webinar this month. The next Veda webinar will be in August 7th at 2 p.m. UK. And once again, thank you everyone. Thank you, Swami, for giving us this opportunity. We offer this amazing webinar at your lotus feet. Anyata sharanam nasti, tvameva sharanam mama, tasmat karanya lavanya, raksha raksha saishwara. Sai Ram, everyone.
Sai Ram, Sai Ram, Sai Ram.
स्वस्ति प्रजाभ्यः परिपालयन्ताम् न्यायेन मार्गेण महीं महिषाः गोब्राह्मणेभ्यः शुभमस्तु नित्यम् समस्तलोकाः सुखिनो भवन्तु समस्तलोकाः सुखिनो भवन्तु समस्तलोकाः सुखिनो भवन्तु ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः जय